Hello, I'm Emily Davis, and welcome to the first vlog episode of Two Extremes, stories about my life with bipolar disorder and how I'm trying to occasionally kick it in the ass. I'd like to preface this first episode by thanking um, all of the people out there who decided to share their stories with their mental health issues. Your bravery has kind of enabled me to do this, so I hope you're ready, and let's get started. Today we're talking about the path towards diagnosis. How you get from these crazy highs and crippling lows to finding out what you actually have and what medications work for you or strategies if you're not into psychotropic drug use. I am, and I'll get to that later, but first let's talk about what got me, or rather who got me on the path towards finding out that I had bipolar. I've struggled with my mental health since I was 10 years old, to the point that it's always or often required outside help. When I was 10, I was diagnosed with depression and an eating disorder. Into my adulthood, was convinced that there was something missing. There was something that wasn't being diagnosed. There had to be some kind of explanation, medically speaking, for a lot of my behaviors. There were lengthy stretches of time where I just felt incapacitated by my depression. And then there were other stretches of time where I just felt like I could not stop running. Anyway, long story short, there's all these undiagnosed symptoms that were running around, and me being a bit of a hypochondriac, um, started like looking into them and coming up with crazy explanations. Like, thought I had Gershwin syndrome, which, if you look it up, it's a very specific diagnosis, and it felt like it fit a lot of the things going on in my head. But it was just one more way for me to try to reconcile behavior and disposition with an answer, any answer, because depression wasn't covering it. And then my life kind of changed. I'm often fascinated with how the butterfly effect is operative in my life, where you can just kind of trace your history as if it was a tree branch, and you go back towards where that branch started, what decision, what consequence, whatever led to that situation at hand. And so I do think there's an event in my life that happened that really triggered a response in me to get on top of my mental health. And I've talked a little bit about it before. I'm going to talk about it with more detail today because it's relevant. I had a cousin named Caden who was very self-aware of his mental health issues and the means by which he wanted to combat them. He was also really working hard to destigmatize it. It sucks feeling though you can't be honest with people about some conditions that are very real to you, chronic health issues that impact your life significantly, that you can't be honest with them to people lest they think you're a nut job. But my cousin didn't let that stop him, which I really respected. He would go online frequently. He had a blog himself. And on that blog, he would be very frank about his Asperger's, about being transgendered and trying to go down a path towards fully transitioning, and how he was incorporating things in his life, such as a service animal, in order to survive through them. And Caden, at one point in his YouTube vlogging journey, decided to document him going through a panic attack. And his service dog Samson was there, trained by Caden to help calm him down, which is fascinating that my cousin was smart enough to teach a dog to do that, and brave enough to put it online. And so to subject himself to that potential for judgment and ridicule in the face of already having a mental health disorder that is a disability, in the face of all that, he decided to continue blogging. because it was important to him. It was therapeutic for him. He was making friends online. Caden was gunned down by Mesa, Arizona police last February after having one of his panic attacks. The cops were called, and long story short, they shot my cousin and ended his life. Me and my cousin were never especially super close, but in the months leading up to his death, I began to find myself intrigued by his situation and inspired by it as well. I had a lot of things in my head and in my heart that I wanted to share with him. I was very repressed. I was very in the closet. I was very much in denial about a lot of things. And yet I looked at my cousin, who I had a lot in common with. I was devastated because I had so many things I wanted to tell him in order to remind him that he wasn't as alone as perhaps he thought he was. My cousin was a transgender man. I identify as a non-binary queer. So were our struggles similar? No, we have different paths, but we're under a very large umbrella together. My cousin had Asperger's, and I was undiagnosed with bipolar disorder, but just diagnosed with ADHD. And I'd had depression and anxiety my whole life to boot, as well as an eating disorder. And so he had struggled with similar things, and he was reaching out to me, and I wanted to be there for him. I wanted him to know that there was someone in his family who wasn't on the exact same page as him, but there was a lot going on that was similar. But I never got the opportunity to do that. And it began to really fuck with my head, especially the way in which he went out. Like I mentioned earlier, I have panic attacks, or there have been moments in my untreated, unmedicated past where I myself would have an episode and reality would become a very tenuous thing. And I would find myself looking over a bridge or standing on top of some kind of structure that I could throw myself off of. And point being, it wasn't terribly hard to see myself in a similar position at some point as Caden, especially if I continued to allow my mental health to go untreated and to continue forcing myself into isolation from a lot of people, and if I continued to repress myself the ways that I had for so long. As the year progressed, my mental health continued to suffer. I was hospitalized at several points while still thinking that there was something missing. And it wasn't until this last early April during hospitalization where, for the first ever, was told that bipolar disorder was the culprit. When I heard bipolar disorder, it wasn't the answer I thought I'd get. I thought I was going to get some kind of autism spectrum diagnosis, or I thought I would get another, oh, you're just depressed, let's fix this, or Gershwin syndrome, whatever. I don't know, but I wasn't anticipating to hear bipolar disorder. After reflecting on it for a few days there, it's as if somebody turned on a light switch or the hallway of my life, and I could look down at all these pictures lining the walls with past events and circumstances where I could then study them and go, oh shit, that was a manic trip. I could look at this hallway of my life and it could start to make sense. Something I've said over the years, and I didn't realize how true this statement really was for me, is that I felt as though I lived my life in extremes. When I am on an unstoppable high, but the high is always laced with anxiety, because when I'm up and manic, it always is paired with this sense of paranoia and discomfort. I don't enjoy it at all. But I felt it. I was on certain meds. I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and they changed my meds completely. And wow. I cannot tell you how much of an impact they've had. I cannot even begin to quantify that. because it's been incredible. Ever since going to the doctor, I'm now on something called Seroquel and propranolol. Seroquel is an antipsychotic, and let me preface that by saying that I feel as though perhaps they should change the wording, because if you tell somebody you're on an antipsychotic, that makes them think you're psychotic. If you look up the definition for psychotic, it says denoting or suffering from a psychosis. Look at the synonyms they use: insane, mad, deranged, demented, crazed, psychopathic. I am none of those things. I'm not any of those things. So it's always difficult when people are like, so you're on meds, what are you taking? I'm on Seroquel. Please don't ask what that is. Please don't ask what that is. Please don't. Because I don't want to have to explain to you that I'm not psychotic. Seroquel works as a sedative at night, which helps me sleep, combating my insomnia. And it also is a mood stabilizer, which sounds a lot better coming out of the mouth than antipsychotic. It evens me out. And it's been incredible. I love it. I've never been on a medication that's, aside from some, that has helped me so much in feeling a sense of ease. I'm just in the present. I'm just here. My brain's always somewhere else doing some other thing, but for now, I'm just here. I'm here. I love that feeling. Having said that, I am aware fully that there is often heated debate between people regarding psychotropic drugs. There are people who will tell you that they are the bomb and that you should try them if and when diagnosed. And then there are people out there who go, fuck that, you're a grown-ass person, do some coping mechanisms, and I would say you're both right. Some people, psychotropic meds just don't work for them. And they've tried everything under the sun, and it doesn't help them. I've had that experience. I was on something called Abilify that fucking sucked. I hated it. And I was on something called Cymbalta that made me feel like a complete zombie. I wrote a song about it even called In Monotone, where I just felt like everything was gray. Everything was just flatlined. And that was a real worry I had when first starting Seroquel. Some people, they just don't work for their chemistry. And some people like me, it's absolutely changed their life. The idea of not having my meds now, that causes a panic attack. Like, I'm so glad I'm on them. I'm so glad I got diagnosed. And I think I owe a lot of it to Caden. Butterfly effect, man. Life is strange. So if you're watching this video and you think there's something going on and you can't quite figure out what it is, maybe it's time to start digging. I'll try to include in the description some relevant websites and phone numbers. And I know, trust me, going and asking for help, like, if that doesn't cause you anxiety, I don't know what would. But I'm getting treated, and I'm getting better. And there's a lot of people I want that for. So start digging. Find a place, if you're worried about financial coverage, find a place in your area that takes you in based on your income. Survival just sounds obligatory, but you can find joy in survival, or at least a sense of stasis. It's possible. I hope it's possible for you. And I hope it's possible for me. I'm certainly getting there. Just knowing what I have. Finally being diagnosed and finally being treated in a way that I'm seeing results. I can't tell you how valuable that is. There's no way I can put that into words. I'm so thankful. So yeah, thanks for watching. My name's Emily. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.